Get ready to mash this party up. It's Rick and Script full non-stop. Hey! Rick and Script. D-Max style. Oh, yeah. I see you coming from a mile away, girl. I see ya coming. Girl, I see ya. Hey! She says she's a real good girl. She only goes to church then home. I say I'm a real good guy like Rick and Script. I stay in my zone. She says she don't party hard. I tell her I'm a party hard.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, the House Speaker blasts a recent court order. The latest on the BEC bribe trial, plus a look at efforts to protect Grand Bahama's marine resources. Welcome to our news. I'm Christina McNeil. Thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight, House Speaker Dr. Kendall Major has dismissed as utterly disdainful an order handed down by a Supreme Court justice last week, ordering members of Parliament not to release the emails of Save the Bay's members. Major says he defies this or any attempt by the court to direct the conduct of House business. Vonique Toot reports.
House Speaker Dr. Kendall Major says an order handed down by Supreme Court Judge Indra Charles is a blatant breach of parliamentary privilege and violates separation of powers. He says it's something all parliamentarians should be outraged over.
I regard this interlocutory injunctive order as a preemptive onslaught against the independence of Parliament, and its attempted execution usurps the authority of the chair and amasses contempt for our institution. In my view, the order violates the principles of separation of powers, critical to a parliamentary democracy, and should attract outrage from every member of this place.
This latest development comes more than a month after Minister of Education Jerome Fitzgerald read the private emails of Save the Bay's members on the floor of the House of Assembly. During that time, he accused the group of seeking to destabilize the Christie administration. The House Speaker said while the reading of such private emails would not be allowed in the future unless the source can be verified, he finds the court order utterly disdainful on many levels.
As chair, I defy this or any attempt by any court to direct or affect in any way the conduct of our business in this place. I have the honor to preside over this House at this juncture and in our history, and will therefore jealously guard its rights and privileges.
Central and South Eleuthera MP Damien Gomez, who chairs the Committee on Privilege, says he was surprised by the order.
This is too serious an issue, Mr. Speaker, for persons to believe that the playing of politics with our Constitution can be tolerated.
Marco City MP Greg Moss also expressed outrage over the judge's ruling.
This is outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous. And to the extent that we respect the courts ought to respect this Parliament.
The House Speaker said he is advised that the Attorney General's office will seek to have the order set aside. However, he stressed that MPs must be responsible.
I will continue to demand that members be responsible in their speech in this House so as to prevent any perceived abuse of parliamentary privilege. I stand ready to defend the Parliament and its freedoms, even to the point of having persons brought to the bar of the House if necessary.
Reporting for our news, I'm Vonique Toot.
Well, Minister of Education Jerome Fitzgerald, who is at the center of the controversy surrounding those private emails, moved a resolution which calls for Justice Indra Charles, Save the Bay's legal advisor Fred Smith QC, attorney Farron Bethel, and others to be called before the Committee on Privilege to determine if they should be held in contempt of the House. He called the matter an attack on our democracy.
I wish now to move the following resolution for this House consideration. Resolve that all matters delineated in this communication as it relates to the issue of said injunctions and other communications to myself and other members be referred forthwith to the Committee of Privileges for the examination and determination of whether the judge, Attorney Fred Smith QC, and Ferron Bethel should be held in contempt of this honorable House, and that the Committee on Privileges be properly funded to obtain independent legal advice, if necessary, concerning this attack on our democracy, and report back to the House at the earliest opportunity.
Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis supported this move and called on the Bar Association to look into the matter as well.
I concur with all the remarks that have been made in respect to the assault on democracy. And I think the Bar Association, the Bar Council ought to be called upon, and I call upon them to make inquiry as to whether or not they too are not to step up to the plate in this matter and examine the conduct of counsel in this matter to determine whether they have not erred in bringing the court into this mire that they now find themselves.
In other news, Prime Minister Perry Christie is voicing concerns over the National Insurance Board fund, noting it's at risk due to employment trends and a dwindling pool of contributors. He was speaking at the meeting of the Inter-American Conference on Social Security's American Commission on Organization and Administrative Systems. Christie told scores of delegates from all over the region the United Nations set a target that no one should be left behind, and his government is committed to ensuring that even those who may be challenged through varying forms of disability are not forgotten.
I pay more than lip service to those who are different to us being recognized as having a fundamental right to participate in the equity of the country. And that to the extent that we appreciate that reality, to that extent our humanity can and will be measured. Put very simply, when one speaks to a commitment of no one should be left behind, it is the most fundamental recognition that everyone counts. And no matter what form you find them in, everyone has a stake.
Christie took note of his government's intentions to introduce national health insurance, though he noted it's a process that may take years to be fully implemented.
My government proposes to introduce universal health care to tackle the inequities that presently exist within our country with access to affordable health care. We recognize that it will take a number of years to fully and comprehensively implement, but it is a journey that must be taken and one that we have started. As with the majority of countries, one of our main challenges today relates to ensuring the sustainability of the National Insurance Fund to meet its future obligations. The pool of contributors necessary to support tomorrow's pensioners is dwindling. The cost of medical care under the Workmen's Compensation Scheme is growing at alarming rates. We see a similar trend in the increase in subscribers to the prescription drug plan. Notwithstanding a healthy reserve position in relative terms, some $1.8 billion, the sustainability of the National Insurance Fund is at risk due to patterns of employment, particularly a downturn in middle income and higher paying employments in the post-financial crisis era.
The conference is being held at the Atlantis Resort. In other news, police are investigating an apparent drowning on Exuma. Police say a man was swimming in waters off Ramsey Exuma around 3 p.m. Sunday when he lost consciousness. Reports are that despite extensive CPR efforts, the man was pronounced dead by the island's doctor. An autopsy will be conducted to determine the exact cause of death. The victim's identity has not been released yet. After the break, steps to reduce recidivism in the country. Our news has that and more on the other side of this break.